Allora, ringrazio tutte le persone che hanno accettato l'invito e quindi sono qua presenti o via web o di persona. Stiamo cercando di approfittare di questo momento per fare i saluti di fine anno prima delle vacanze estive da una parte e dall'altra parte per dare un piccolo spicchio di presentazione a quella che è ancora una work in progress della trasformazione pian piano verso la Smart Factory di Gruppo. I welcome also Mr. Hani Al-Tanir, CEO of Masaood, who accepted the invitation to participate in this day. And I'll now hand the floor over to our president, Luca Donelli, and to Hani Al-Tanir, right?
Right. Buongiorno a tutti. Good afternoon, Mr. Al-Tanir. I think it's a great opportunity for us to have this hybrid meeting today, mix of webinar plus the opportunity to finally have the chance to visit your company, Gianni, and we have heard a lot about it over the past couple of years, and so we are very happy to be here today. Without further ado, I think, Mr. Al-Tanir, the best is to start up with a brief introduction from your end of Al Masaood activities, and then we can get into a bit of the details in relation to a few questions that we thought of would be interesting for our membership days. First of all, thanks a lot for connecting with us today, and it's a real pleasure to have a chance to hear from you and listen about the potential opportunities in the Emirates.
Well, thank you for the invitation, Mr. Luca. Thank you, Gianni, my friend, for that. I would like to also introduce, sitting next to me is my colleague from the marketing. What happened? From our marketing and communication department, Ms. Wasila, who's helped me with the preparation of the presentation to you. I'll just take a few moments to talk about Al Masaood Industrial Group, which is my group. If I can switch to our screen, is that okay?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, so we go to this. Yes, can you see it?
Not yet. No.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so the Al Masaood company is now 52 years old. Our first registration was in Abu Dhabi in 1970. The group is made up of three operating arms. One is Al Masaood Automobiles, which has dealerships for the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, for Nissan and Renault cars. One is our property department, and everything else is part of the industrial group. These are some of the principles that we have the pleasure of working with within the industrial group. Renault trucks, UD trucks, forklifts from Unicarrier. We work with Bridgestone tires and Trezano on the tires division. We work with Man Energy for compressors for oil and gas. Of course, our good friends from BBV. Code Select, which is a British company which is involved in maintenance of electrical equipment. And so on and so forth. And of course, MTU and Volvo Penta under our power division. We have at the moment 6 divisions within the industrial group, which will become 7 divisions from next year. But for now, it is 6 divisions, and they are projects and engineering. Let me do this as a better introduction. Okay. Al Masaood Power Division, we offer primary and secondary power systems, working with MTU for industrial and marine, and Volvo Penta for marine applications. This division has now started developments in solar, mobile solar, EV charging using solar power, and we are now embarking on our first project in hydrogen. So this is the Masaood Power Division. Our tires, batteries, and accessories, the cornerstone is Bridgestone tires. We work with Total for supply of lubricants, and we operate a total of 14 service stations around the UAE, which do light servicing of vehicles. The Masaood Vehicles and Equipment Division is the dealer in Abu Dhabi for Renault trucks, UD trucks, which used to be Nissan diesel, TCM forklifts, Oshkosh fire trucks, and does a lot of service work for third party, for the military and for the civil defense. So we do a lot of, if you like, multi-brand servicing. Al Masaood Bergam was a joint venture with an Italian company in the 1970s, which built porta cabins, as they used to be known then. Today, they are known as modular housing units. We are now using environmentally friendly materials. We're using cross-laminated timber in our solutions. And this factory, which is based in Dubai, is now looking primarily to the export market for its business. The Projects and Engineering Services Division is a traditionally project-oriented unit that works with a lot of our good principles like BBV, to bid for oil and gas, to bid for utilities projects, and support them with services as well. ARB Emirates is the local franchise of an Australian company which does accessories for off-road vehicles. So it sits very comfortably in the group, even though it's not really as heavy as everybody else, but it sits nicely in the group, and we're now looking to expand beyond the UAE, where we have achieved some good success. As of the 1st of January next year, there will be a 7th division, which is called Al Masaood Rentals, which will rent the modular housing units as well as mobile generation units to contractors and various users around the UAE. And that division has now been approved, and we will be launching it in January. So these are the, if you like, the 7 units within the industrial group. We also have here a development cell, which is charged with working both across the divisions and on its own to develop and diversify the business of Al Masaood, A, in terms of new products and services, and B, to go outside of the UAE and start doing more business in the GCC and in Africa. Again, we're working with an Italian company on a study now for biofuels, and we hope to have a meeting here with the local clients in the next couple of weeks now to see if we have a chance to actually announce our first project. Gianni, you may remember this company, we signed the MOU with the last EDIPEC.
Yeah.
And when you were there, well, we have progressed the project, and we're now hopefully about 2 months away from actually signing the big contract for them. Okay. So this is basically just some of the shots of what we have in our workshops. For the power division, for instance, we have a big facility in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, in Bahrain. We have test benches as well. We train Emirati nationals to work with us and to be part of our team. This is part of the marine applications in terms of, we fit probably units for maybe 70% of all units built in the UAE, as well as supporting units that come from outside. This is part of the service centers of our tires division, including multi-brands. Masaood trucks, we have just moved into a big facility in Abu Dhabi to accommodate Renault and Nissan and everything else. This is Bergam. The factory is in DIP up in Dubai. and it's a fairly big facility, which we're now spending about $4 million to upgrade as well, including with some robotics to make production work better for us. PESD, as you can see, oil and gas, and water, electricity, and sewage are our main areas of interest. And this is the ARB team that I mentioned to you. Also, one of the activities that Masaood has had for many years, since the early 1990s, is we signed up with KSB from Germany for pumps. And that business has grown substantially. They have their own regional office based in Dubai. And also, we have a joint venture with KSB called KSB Services Limited, where we have 5149. And they are doing servicing of pumps and valves, not just for KSB, but on a multi-brand basis. And they have their facility in Kizad, which is the new industrial unit between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So that's something else that is and isn't with me. So I sort of support them, but I don't. I'm not officially accountable for them. And this is Al-Masaood.
So thank you very much, Mr. El-Tanir, for this broad presentation of Al-Masaood activities. Indeed, from your presentation, what comes out is that you are leading a very dynamic enterprise with a clear orientation towards establishing partnerships and, as far as we can tell, long-term partnerships, which are the basis for fruitful cooperation on both sides. Looking at the various divisions, indeed, for the membership base of Lombardy Energy Cleantech cluster, some of them appear closer to our toward our typical market served, and indeed these are the power division, that of project engineering, and partially also I think that of modular houses, housing units in terms of likely working on the efficiency of such houses. Going forward, we can try to focus more on these divisions specifically, and I would like to ask a few questions going forward. First of all, it's clearly a time of turmoil again. We were looking at 2022 as a year of, let's say, re-establishing normal working methods. And unfortunately, this was not the case due to the invasion of Ukraine by Russian forces. And that clearly generated a number of political, economic, and social tensions in various geographical areas. And in this respect, you have a very privileged view on the Gulf Coast countries, and more specifically Abu Dhabi and the UAEs. And we would like to ask what's your general view and how you see the development of cooperation amongst Gulf Coast countries and the European Union and Italy, more specifically in this time, as I said, of turmoil.
The UAE first. The UAE has always been a very open market. If anything, we traders sometimes complain that it is too open. So the UAE is always open. The UAE is always looking for opportunities to grow and to prosper and to work out. If you look today at the flow of projects that are starting in the UAE or Saudi Arabia, to a lesser extent, maybe Qatar, out of the 6 GCC countries, those are the 3 main economic drivers. There's tremendous projects going on. While there is talk about new energy, there is still a lot of work going on into oil. Sorry about this. There's still a lot of projects going on in terms of oil development. Gas projects are springing up. ADNOC in Abu Dhabi is just putting out tenders after tender after tender for development. Saudi Arabia has gone really very aggressive on its new projects and its new developments. So the mood is one of optimism. There isn't a worry that the conflict in the Ukraine is going to affect. If anything, at the moment we seem to be milking the price of oil, and that is helping out. Where does the European Union stand in terms of the business? It stands very well. China obviously will always have a major push into the region, but historically, over the last 50, 60 years, the Europeans have made a lot of inroads into the region, more so in say UAE and Qatar and Oman and Bahrain and Kuwait than maybe Saudi Arabia, where it's always been a lot of American interest in the past. So to me, it's open door, it's open business, very optimistic. We're looking to, as I said, we're looking to expand. We're looking to diversify. We're looking to go beyond our countries to make business. It really is a very optimistic frame of mind. And within Europe, Italy has always, been known as a strong manufacturer in a number of sectors. Again, I don't see any issues. So I'm very optimistic.
I'm very glad of your words. We tend to be more pessimistic in many ways, and it's always train for the worst, at the same time hope for the best.
We have issues. I mean, okay, we're optimistic and we remain so. But we have issues at the moment, for instance, in terms of the supply chain. On some of our products, we have seen price increases from our suppliers, and sometimes very serious price increases from Europe. We've seen logistics problems with freight. And in some cases where we are growing, because touch wood, our divisions are all growing substantially. The biggest hang-up is to be able to get access to material. So yes, there are issues like everybody else in the world in terms of supply, in terms of inflation. We're aware of that. But you say to me, are there opportunities? Yes. Is there positivity? Yes. Is there optimism? Yes. Do the Italians have a chance? Of course, yes.
Very good, Mr. Tanir. And to be more specific, I would like to concentrate over the next few minutes on a few areas of interest of some of our companies, which would be the development of wastewater treatment and waste in general, energy efficiency projects, both industrial and domestic. And more in general, clean tech embraces a number of different sectors, including, you mentioned, hydrogen, biofuels, and this sort of products.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, we do see it.
Okay, this is something prepared for me by my colleague Wasila and her colleagues, so thank you to them. This is something which we're quite happy to share with you after the seminar, where we have tried to summarize some of the opportunities and some of the directions that are coming up within the UAE. So obviously the clean energy sector, everybody has heard about the ADNOC plans for carbon capture. Everybody's heard about the Masdar development, which is an authority set up many years ago by the UAE authorities in terms of driving a lot of the clean energy, and we're working with them on some of our solar projects and some of the hydrogen projects that we're trying to set up. So there is a big drive towards that. ADNOC is leading it together with the power authorities, and the government is very much keeping an eye on this in terms of moving to carbon capture, storage, separation, hydrogen storage, infrastructure. We're now talking to the authorities about, for instance, hydrogen buses for COP28. We're doing our first hydrogen boat that we want to launch at the Dubai Boat Show later on this year. So there's a serious emphasis on green hydrogen going forward. But as I said, oil and gas remains, the traditional oil and gas remain a major source of income. Okay, but again, solar, hydrogen, it's all coming in, and we know about specific opportunities that we want to take part in. Okay, so in terms of the energy sector, again, solar plants in Abu Dhabi and in Al-Ain and Dubai. If you see in Al-Ain, we have waste-to-energy plants that are being planned in order to take the CO2 emissions down. Nuclear energy, as most of your team would know, we now have 3 out of the initial 4 reactors mobilized and generating, I think, about 5.6 gigawatt. There are another 4 + 1 being planned at the moment. And that power station has now been operating for about 2 years. About 2 years. They've just had their first regular shutdown. And that will provide about 20% of the national power once it's all running up in terms of the 8 units. Solar energy, again, very big. There are massive projects taking place in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Sharjah. In terms of fixed solar, we have started a venture with a French company on mobile solar, and we're starting that operation, as well as using solar for our EV charging units that we launched last month. So there's a lot of solar activity taking place. Of course, this place is full of sun, so that that allows us to do that. And some of the big companies have now started migrating towards solar energy. So this is Emirates Global Aluminium, which is one of the big, this is what used to be Dubal. And yeah, it was Dubal, and then it became Emirates Global when Abu Dhabi came in, and they have operations outside the UAE. As they're looking to manufacture silicon metal here using clean energy. And this is the solar park in Dubai, named after the vice president, which has another 13 megawatt added to the grid already. And this is more work in terms of solar. Hydrogen, as I mentioned, everybody is now chasing that. And we've started now with ADNOC. ADNOC has a big project. I don't know if your members are aware of this, called Ta'ziz. Ta'ziz is a big industrial park that they've set up, or they are setting up now, in the western region, close to the petrochemical facility that they have. This will be a much bigger petrochemical park to basically take feed from the refinery there and use that. So they're planning 7 big industries in Ta'ziz, and they're looking to do most of it as clean energy. Okay. Again, Kizad that I mentioned, the industrial park, where they'll be doing the first green hydrogen and ammonia plant in the UAE, and that will be a Korean venture. Okay, electric power generation is something that continues to be of relevance here, even though we're trying to bring in as much of that from green energy. But again, there's going to be, if you see here, the total share of solar would be about 7% only. Clean nuclear might reach 47% in the next 2 to 3 years, but it's still a big sector that has a lot of opportunities. And within Al Masaood, I'm trying to spend more of our energy going to that. Green buildings in the UAE have started. One of the activities of our power division I just got approval from the board, is to start acting as a contractor to supply clean generators into old buildings and therefore turn those old buildings which are 20, 30 years old into clean buildings. These are the standby generating facilities that they have in most buildings in Dubai. But yeah, they're looking at green buildings in general. The agriculture sector is another sector that we're studying. Everywhere you look here in the UAE now, there are little hydroponic projects taking place. The COVID has shown the need to be self-sufficient in food. So there's a big drive towards agriculture. Of course, it's not as lucrative maybe as other sectors, but it's very important that we do that. So that's another sector of possible interest. And then waste management and water treatment that you mentioned. As you see, Abu Dhabi, we have 9 to 10% growth in wastewater flows every year. And the government is still spending a lot of money to expand the network. There are a lot of smart tunnels that have been put in place and are being planned. And that's, again, another sector that Al Masaood is beginning to make some inroads into. This is a couple of pictures from the strategic tunnel enhancement program, which was a major project that I think was completed about 2 years ago in phase 1. And obviously we'll now wait for phase 2 and 3 to take place. Okay. The UAE renewable sustainable projects, they're looking at 50% of energy from renewable and nuclear. They're looking to improve the efficiency by 40%, reduce carbon footprint by 70%, and invest 600 billion dirhams to meet the growing energy demand and secure sustainable future up to the year 2035, I think, 2030, 2035. 2050, sorry, up to 2050. So these are the main sectors that we're chasing.
So thank you very much and thank you also for your team for putting together this interesting presentation, which I'm sure will be extremely interesting also going forward as a guide for each and every company sitting in the room today or connected over the internet, so that they can start approaching potential opportunities that may arise in the coming years. In this regard, Mr. Al-Tanir, I wanted to have your view on and your suggestions on how Al Masaood will go forward scouting opportunities in the coming months, as well as what would be the most appropriate approach going forward for interested companies in such scouting activities.
Okay. As I mentioned, we have a development arm that works out of the head office, if you like, that is next door to me here, which basically identifies and drives forward specific development projects. Masaood traditionally the units have a lot of autonomy, so they would, for instance, one of the units came and said, I want to get into steel fabrication for oil and gas, and we started that within that particular division. The units will have their own autonomous plans, which are obviously agreed and budgeted, etc. And I have an input into that. And I also have visibility in terms of what's coming up from the center here. So I tend to have, if you like, the overall visibility on what's happening on development. It works both ways, Mr. Lucas. Sometimes a GM will identify a specific requirement or a specific product or service that he or she wants to sell, and we will go out and identify a principal. Sometimes an international company would come to us and say, listen, I have this, and we try to see how that fits into what we are doing or what we are planning, or what we know that the market may require, but we're not active in. And starting a new venture, whether it is a new venture totally or whether it's under a division, this is what we're good at, okay? So it can be that we will identify things and we will come and say, okay, who's available? Or it might be that some of your members will come and say, listen, this is what I have. Does that sit in anywhere in terms of your plans going forward? So it works both ways.
To be very pragmatic and very practical, when I understand there are these two approaches on generating opportunities. Whenever you are scouting for something that you need as a service or as a product to satisfy needs of one of your divisions, would that be done in a specific manner, or would you suggest on what do you suggest on potentially interested companies to do?
I'll give you an example. I mentioned earlier the biofuel project that we're now very close to finishing. We identified that need around May, June of last year. We did our research worldwide in terms of who are the EPCs who are good at this. We then did our due diligence on the last two, and we decided to go with a company called BTS out of Italy. And we signed with them in November last year in Abu Dhabi. And we're now meeting them next week to hopefully be maybe a month or 2 months away from the big project. So if we identify something, we will go out and do our research. We do it directly. We speak to some of our principals who will give us advice. Sometimes we speak to the embassies. We speak to the commercial offices in the embassies. We will talk to a whole network of people, but we will always do our due diligence. We will always check on the company. We will check on its financials. We'll check on its history. We have an active compliance department here. And we need to always respect the compliance requirements of the group. And on the other hand, sometimes somebody will just turn up and say, listen, I have this new product. For instance, somebody came and said, I have a drone service that I want to introduce into the UAE to do a specific job. And we said, okay, and we've done our research. We've identified something, and we're now looking to figure out the regulations for us to move forward. So it varies.
Yes, I understand. And the timing of the example you brought up about the biofuels project was shows that things happen very quickly, which is something very important, and also shows a well-structured approach from your end, which shows, I mean, speed and execution is also very relevant. In this regard, I have a final question from my end, and then I would like to open for the discussion towards those that are connected over the internet or anybody in the room. Should you want to provide a suggestion to a company who has never been present in UAE, what would be the very first thing you would suggest a company or an enterprise to do in terms of, let's say, after the reading of what's available, what would be the first active or proactive activity that a company should do?
Check, always check. Talk to people you trust. If you're coming from Italy, talk to the embassy, talk to the commercial office in the embassy, talk to other Italian companies, who share your culture. Because sometimes, there are a lot of very good people in this country who will work very well, but sometimes it's a question of the culture not matching. So rather than commit yourself to something and then a year down the line having to reverse out of it, check, think, do your research. Okay, it may cost you an extra month or two. but there are plenty of opportunities. There really are plenty of opportunities here. But come in, I wouldn't say come in too cautious, but come in a little bit cautious and do your research properly.
I think looking from Italy at you over there, one of the things that struck me a lot was the fact that you were able to continue having exhibitions and events largely attended by internationals as well. And I think this was something that differentiated a lot Gulf Coast countries in general with respect to Europe, where basically all the events and exhibitions had been cancelled or made virtual only. So do you expect also this year ADIPEC and other events being very much attended and very important for newcomers to the market?
Very much so. We came back, I think, to exhibitions about a year and just over a year ago. I mean, there were a lot of restrictions. But even now, for instance, if you want to go into a government department, your PCR test must be not more than 48 hours. So we're still being cautious, especially in Abu Dhabi. But in terms of exhibitions, today, not today, a month ago, we tried to get more space for ADIPEC and we were told, sorry, fully booked. The big exhibitions like the military exhibition, the oil and gas exhibition, fully booked. We cannot get space. And that underlines the confidence that the companies have in terms of the business, because they are not cheap, you know, but people are investing in exhibitions and events and launches, etc. Because, as I mentioned earlier, the mood is fairly, not fairly, the mood is very much an optimistic one. So yeah, the exhibitions continue as planned.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you also for these comments and these suggestions. I would like to open the floor to question. Paolo, non so se ti sente, magari me la dice, la ripeto.
No, giusto un po' impattare l'IC value nel mercato degli Emirati, perché non è che basta andare lì a cercare. Adesso c'è l'incontro value che è qualcosa di importante per l'azienda che vuole entrare.
Paolo Bugatti from Cannon Bono, boiler manufacturer, was asking about the in-country value and how do you suggest for a, let's say, a manufacturer of goods in Italy to address this relevant topic?
Very easy. It's very easy. The in-country value, which I presume Mr. Paolo is referring to, the ADNOC one?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
The in-country value, Masaood has one of the highest in the country. We're at 61.3 now, which is one of the highest in the country. ADNOC is using it to encourage people to move, not just in terms of the Emiratization, but also in terms of the way that there is contribution to society in terms of what's the contribution to assets and property, etc. So it's a very big combination. I'm actually now running the ICV team for Al Masaood to make sure that we're all pushing in the same direction. Now, the in-country value works for very simple. If I'm importing a boiler from Mr. Paolo and selling it under the Al Masaood name, he doesn't have any issue with in-country value, because that is, you know, BBV is a perfect example. Any sale that we make for BBV, we're the ones who are responsible for it in front of ADNOC or ADWIA or DIWA, and it is our ICV that is being requested. So in terms of a foreign manufacturer, if he is going through a local company which has a good ICV, that is fine. Having said all of this, I should also be truthful and say that sometimes ADNOC and now maybe somebody like Emirates Steel, who is now applying the ICV system, and more companies will, and more authorities will, sometimes they will buy international anyway without even thinking about ICV. But the trend is to move towards ICV to encourage business to be done through local companies.
Thanks for addressing this relevant point that we see becoming more and more relevant in many regions. So also another point to take into consideration going forward. Any other? I think you touched upon a lot of topics in the presentation. I see a lot of people thinking and trying to make your comments more practical and more let's say to the point of their own enterprises and research centers. And I think we touched upon a very large number of things, both from an international relations standpoint, as well as from a very broad plan of UAE to leverage on a number of technologies, including very much relevant in terms of percentage-wise. I was quite shocked about the percentages of nuclear, for instance, and the speed of implementation of nuclear, as well as that of other technologies. You spoke about hydrogen, not only in means of mobility, but also of hard to abate industries, usage of hydrogen in order to abate industries. So that was also quite interesting from my perspective. I think this was a very interesting presentation from your end. Okay, there is actually one more question.
Sure.
Per la domanda, Corrado Panzeri, volevo capire, ci ha fatto una rappresentazione su questo mercato, quali sono per lui i segmenti di mercato che stanno crescendo e quali invece si stanno asciugando, diciamo, perché questo poi va a indirizzare le scelte strategiche delle aziende italiane.
So a question from Mr. Panzeri of BVV, for you again, Mr. El Tanir, in relation to the various market segments you mentioned, which ones are the fastest growing and which one are those that are shrinking the most? If you could make a sort of like a ranking of where it is slowing down and where it is speeding up. You mentioned, for instance, relevance of oil and gas particularly. So do you have like a ranking in mind of the most the fastest growing ones?
Okay, in terms of growth, the growth is coming from obviously oil and gas and water, electricity, and sewage. These are the traditional growth industries which don't seem to have finished. What is coming down over the past 2 or 3 years is construction, because the infrastructure is in place. So construction is beginning to dwindle in terms of what's happening. Within oil and gas and within utilities, there is a greater value in terms of service oriented, in terms of refurbishment, shutdown services, value addition that way. So to me, these are the sectors that we're going after. As I mentioned several times, it's oil and gas, including new sources of energy, water, electricity, and sewage. Construction, building of roads is more or less done. Building of some of the housing complexes is more or less done. The number of companies which used to be in the hundreds of thousands, that's come down. A lot of them are now moving to Saudi Arabia because of the big growth in Saudi Arabia, especially the 3 big developments that are taking place there. So a lot of the construction activity is now migrating towards Saudi Arabia.
I understand, and makes sense once the infrastructure is in place. And you also mentioned you are already working on energy efficiency of existing buildings, meaning that the buildings are enough. It is a matter only to make sure that those are or become energy efficient. A couple of more questions from the colleagues connected over the web. One from there was a request on making the presentation available. I think you already mentioned this to be made available, and it will be sent via email to those that registered for the online or in-person meeting. Also, there was a question more specific on wastewater management from Mr. Riccio. I think I saw the name coming very quick. The question was about wastewater and what is Al Masaood working on specifically on wastewater treatment plants. Is it more on the engineering or is it more on the supply side of equipment? And if so, which type of equipments are you serving?
Okay. My interest is value addition. So what we are negotiating, we're in the early stages of negotiating with a service contractor who would go into a lot of the STPs and work as a 24-hour maintenance contractor on the STP. So they will be working across different manufactured plants as a specialist contractor. This is my primary interest. The other interest we have is in anticipation of some of the new projects that might come up in 2024. We're lining up with an EPC, again, early stages of negotiation, in order to provide a full solution. This will be a big project if it happens, but you know, we always look forward. But the short term is to get into the maintenance side of wastewater treatment plants.
Excellent. So I think both are of interest to companies here. And I think there is one more question now from the room, Mr. Tanir.
Sì, Veneziani Lanfranco Conveco. In tema di energie rinnovabili volevo chiedere, non ho sentito parlare di biogas, come biogas da wastewater treatment plant o municipal solid waste landfill. Se sono inseriti in queste attività o se conosce il mercato.
So the question from Mr. Veneziani from Conveco is related to biogas and more specifically from biogas derived from municipal solid treatment as well as wastewater. Is there a business for that in UAE?
Yes, definitely. The project that we are hoping to turn into our first reality project is in fact going to be in conjunction with Tadweer. Tadweer is the local authority for waste management. The word Tadweer is an Arabic word that actually means recycling. This is the waste management authority for Abu Dhabi. They're the ones who are responsible for the collection and disposal of solid waste within the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. In fact, one of the Italian companies working there is a company called Lavajet, which is a contractor that wins some of the geographical areas that they give out for 2 or 3 year contract for collection and transportation of solid waste. So we are very much, projects like this, you have to go in with the government. You have to go in with the government's support. At least sometimes the government now is saying, you know, they might be interested in taking a slice of the project to encourage local companies to do more and more in terms of value addition. So projects like waste to energy has to be in conjunction with the government, and this is you know something that we like to do anyway because they're very supportive.
So just to better summarize on this question, I understand that waste collection and disposal is managed on a country level in Abu Dhabi by a state-run company.
And Emirate of Abu Dhabi, yeah. The Emirates is 7 Emirates, so I'm talking about the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. But it's the same in Dubai. There's a controlling company in Dubai, and then it's subcontracted to contractors.
Okay, and so the plants are owned by this company, and then they subcontract the collection to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in case of improvements to, or in case of adding biogas production to existing plants, the government would be the company responsible to present the project to, at least.
Well, you have to, because the source of the waste is going to come from this government entities, tipping sites, and then the electricity generated would have to either be sold separately, which doesn't make sense, or sold into the national grid. So you have to have your relationship with the government from day one. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. This is on the solid waste. On the liquid waste, if you like, it is basically excuse me. It is the flow through the tunnel system through most of Abu Dhabi into the sewage treatment plants for treatment, and then the dispersal thereafter. But this is where I'm interested. I'm not in it at the moment. This is what I want to do. I want to get into that. We have a lot more stronger links on the solid waste, because we sell trucks to the contractors and etc. So we know them quite well.
Okay, we will try to collect some proactively some ideas for you to look at.
Sure.
Once again, thank you very much to you and the Al Masaood team who prepared for this meeting. I think it was very interesting hour spent together. Our day, just for you to know, continues with our steering committee meeting, which in this case, as Lombardy Energy Cleantech Cluster, we are holding open to the members, something we do on a rather regular basis. And then we will visit BB Flex under the guidance of Mr. Valli, who I think would have been happy to share the visit with you as well. And I'm sure something like this will occur in the near future. We look forward to meeting in person, either in UAE or in Italy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for the opportunity, Gianni. Thank you, my friend, for organizing it, which I appreciate. And anything we can do to support the Lombardy Energy Cluster, it will be our pleasure.
Thank you very much, Annie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.